Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Sorry, how are you?
I'm all right. Good.
Okay.
And you?
I am well. It's been a hectic day. I'm sure it's been hectic on your end.
Yeah, I mean, I when you called me earlier, I was somewhere. There was noisy, so I had to get home.
Right, right.
So
I can
yeah,
imagine. Okay, okay. Thanks for coming. Thanks for accepting to be our speaker today on a topic we think it's very important as Africans. You know, so
thank you for having me.
well, we'll wait for a few more people to join, but in the meantime, maybe I can start talking about the African Press Club for people who are joining us. The African Press Club
Okay.
is a community of journalists, writers, and everybody in the business of news. And we are here to support African everything, whether it's arts, whether it's literature, journalism, books, all of that. So be part of the community. You can go to our website, www.africanpressclub.com, to see more of what we do. Also, feel free to follow our social media handles at African Press Club. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram, as you can see today. So then also feel free to follow Chuma at Chuma Anagbado. And then his website is www.chumaanagbado.com. I made a mistake. I called you Anagbodo, but it's Anagbado, right?
Yeah, people make that mistake a lot, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Okay. Okay. So I'm
no
very
harm.
delighted to welcome you today, and I'm very delighted to see everyone coming in. I think we're going to have an awesome time. Actually, I'm not very familiar with Instagram Live. I'm more of a writer, so this is like a test. I hope it goes well. So let me start by introducing our guest today. Chuma is a multi-talented artist and designer whose work cuts across traditional, digital, and emerging creative mediums. In his societally reformative work, Chuma continually innovates ways of using both material and non-material aspects of Igbo existence in designing new structures and narratives to build a sense of identity and community. He uses ancient Uli motifs, idioms, symbols, folklore, functionality, objects, language, and materiality fused with modern technology in creating art, furniture, spaces, experiences, and enterprise. Chuma is the co-founder of Aziza Design, Nigeria's first multidisciplinary design firm. Mbari Uno, a social enterprise focused on human capacity development, and the Nigerian NFT community. He is the founder and creative director of Lizard, a generative African pattern art brand offering furniture and lifestyle products. That's a lot. You're a very busy man. That's a lot. And that's a rich CV, a rich profile as well.
Thank you. I was wondering who wrote all of that actually at some point. I
You sent
was
it to
beginning to look.
me. Did
I
you?
did. Wow.
Yes, you did.
I think I need to go back and cut it down, like delete a lot of things. But yeah, yeah. Thank you for having me. I just like introducing myself as an artist and a designer who tries to venture into entrepreneurship. So yeah, that's what I've done. Um, what all of that is simply saying I am from somewhere and I am proudly where I'm from, and everything I do is inspired by where I'm from. And what are those elements that come from where I'm from? It's the language, it's the food, it's the music, it's the culture, and there's no other way of being aside being who you are, where you're from. And we have this um, reality as Africans who have gone through a part in of our history where we were sold off, right? And our natural course was, hey, we are talking in English, right? So it's something that we have to become conscious
Right.
of and aware of, right? The names we bear, particularly where we draw our models from. And when I say models, where do we think from, right? Back in the days when I used to do advertising, a Brazilian taught me that if I want to create my concepts, I should think in my language and then translate to English. It kind of gives you a flair when you uh, bring out the final product, right? So a lot of us think in English because we are trained in English, but we are not actually English in our character. So there seems to be that disconnect, and it's always said that the black man is lost. And I think all of this put together is what has caused that. So for me, I come from a place of who I am and where I'm from. So that's just what all of that English is, and whatever it is I'm doing, the names I choose, the structure that I choose, I make a conscious effort to come from a place where I am from. Right. And where I'm from is here, Africa, Nigeria. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. That's an excellent way of explaining your profile. So I would like to start by asking, how did you start this journey? Because from what you have just told me, it seems like a journey. And that journey seems to be deep and evolving. So how did it all begin? Just briefly.
I think I so I think the journey chose me, as opposed to me choosing the journey, because I'm just getting to a point where I'm beginning to draw a straight line through all my experience in life so far, and I kind of realized that it's all been leading me to the same place. So I think this is more of destiny, in terms of all I've done. I think it started out being inquisitive as a child and wanting to have an expression that is authentic to me, which was what actually led me to the arts, right? But somewhere along the line, I think I veered off, and in secondary school, I was a science student and I was supposed to do engineering, and I was very good at it as well. But somewhere between O levels and JAMB and getting into university, I kind of went 360 from a full science student to arts, because I was rebelling. Like, I didn't want to do something. Okay, so in my understanding at that time, I didn't want to do something that the white man could control me. Yeah, it may sound very funny, but that was the motivation. And I just looked around for something I could do that would grant me that freedom. And it was fine art because I had the ability. So I did fine art, but I always had in mind from day one that I was going to move into proper design. So I had to learn materials and methods. And the fine art that I chose was sculpture, which was the closest to industrial design. And yeah, came out, went into 9 to 5, doing advertising. And again, this call came again, this ancestral call. And I dropped my pen and pencil, picked up my bags. I went back to school to do industrial design, and then came back and started a design firm. And like that, I've been here. So I think at every turn I've taken in life, there seemed to be something pulling me back. You know, it's like the aeroplane gyroscope, that if the plane tries to go off course, it will pull it back. So that kind of a thing. So
Right.
no matter how I try to move out of it or go away or try to do something else, I find that experience of the new path I've taken only ends up feeding the original path that I'm supposed to be. So I think I'm done running and I've accepted it. And yeah, here we are talking about it.
Well, I think this is amazing. You sound like a revolutionary to me.
Am I?
Because yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like. A lot of people choose careers that are safe and stable. Well, stable, you know how we define stable in African countries, and of course a lot of people also follow the footpaths of their parents or the direction of their parents. Nobody wants to rebel. Everybody wants to have a stable, functional, nice, cushy life. But to go into an area which tasks your creativity and you share with the community or with the world and your country, I mean, there's a lot to admire, by that. So I would like to go into your work specifically. I mean, there's a fusion of a lot. You use idioms, symbols, folklore, objects, language, and materiality to create art and to create furniture, spaces, experiences, and enterprise. That's a lot. That's a lot of fusion there. So how did you arrive at this? How does it work? And eventually, what's the end result? Do you have something to show us to have a feel of what you do?
Okay, so I'm trying to put my head together how I'll present this. So I belong to a school of thought called natural synthesis, right? Which was originally, or which was created by a set of Nigerians at the then Zaria Art School, right? Those Nigerians have gone on to become very phenomenal persons in their various endeavors. I'm talking about the likes of Bruce Onobrakbeya, Ucho Keke, whom I've met personally before he died. Praise the Lord. Demas Moko, who I've also met, who is like a mentor to me. Yusuf Grillo, who died. So that the popularly called Zaria Art Society, and the ideology was very simple. So we acknowledge that there has been an influence, outside influence, which is the Western influence that has then given us some things that we don't want to throw away, right? So there's a technology, there are better ways of doing things, but it insists that you must think from an indigenous perspective, like where you're from, right? So if you're able to think indigenously and then use the most modern technology, then that's that natural synthesis, which is diffusion. So I belong to that school of thought, and much of it comes through my work. So all those things that you've listed, sorry, I think I need to go back and edit that thing. I think it's a bit of a mouthful. But what it simply means is this: if I want to name an enterprise, I name it in Igbo.
In your language.
Yes. So if I want to create a product, as much as possible, I name it in Igbo. So I'll give you a few instances. The design firm that I created in 2014 is called Aziza. And Aziza Design is the name of the company. And Aziza means broom, right? Which represents collaboration. So together we are strong, individually we are weak. So what represents that in Igbo is the broom. So the company was named Aziza, right? I have a social enterprise called Bari Uno, which is also an Igbo word translated to more or less a house of collaboration, right? So I take that to CAC and get it registered. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, a German would name their company Mercedes-Benz, right? They won't name it in English. So Mercedes-Benz is a German word, right? The Spanish person will name their company in Spanish. So why should I name mine in English? That's just where I'm coming from. So that's in terms of using nomenclature, naming. In terms of work process, I do a lot of study of how do we innovate as a people, right? If you look at some of the things that we've done, taking the apprenticeship system, for example, right? It's something that has then become crystallized and it's been studied as a way of work, like a way of innovating, a way of franchising and brand building, all the way at Harvard University, right? But that culture is Igbo, right? It's a value system that has then turned into entrepreneurship and skill transfer method, right? How do we then use that as a people? Those are some of the things I put in when I'm working, right? When I want to create my work, my art, what message am I sending? It has to be from where I'm from. The style of creating that work I have to then refer back to how my people created art. So all of this is intentional, right? You also know that I went to an art school that is very, very Western. The Uniben Art School trains you to be very photographic and realistic. And we've done all of that, and there's no fun in it. I mean, why am I trying to compete with a camera, right? People created art in the 17th century, 16th century. They tried to copy, to imitate nature, right? And those were all before we created, before the camera was invented, right? So now the camera has been invented. Why are you still trying to be very technical? I mean, that's not how it works. And then if you go back to your history and see how we represented art, we are trying to be very capturing deeper meanings, right? Deeper meanings, and not copy nature directly, but rather seek to be very, for sort of a better word, spiritual, right? The way we feel about stuff. There's a lot of emotion and experience that comes in it, as opposed to just sit down and try to copy nature. So I bring that into my art. I use the I don't like using that word ancient anymore. I think I have to delete that as well. The Igbo Uli motifs, right? Which is so beautiful, so elaborate, and it actually happens in different cultures across Africa. Actually, so each culture have their own form of writing system or illustration system that has then gone on to become a language, right? Because it represents things. The CBD, for instance, became a language for a select group of people. The Uli also communicates language, and oh, somebody's asking something.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack from what you say. Like, my head is going haywire. Like, look, I'm trying to keep it together. You talk about indigenous perspective, natural synthesis, the Western school of thought, and philosophy, how we're taught in the universities. You talk about the broom, you talk about capturing deeper meanings. Let me go to the broom, because what it tells us is that all Africans have the same underlying philosophy. It could be the broom, which represents or signifies unity or togetherness or community. It could be Ubuntu. We know the Ubuntu, which also talks about community, us, I am because you are. In so many different languages, it's the same philosophy. We are, or I am because you are. So it's so interesting that you're discussing this and you're taking us back to the root, your identity. Who are you? What is your identity? How do you translate your identity into today? Instead of using someone else's brush, is sort of to paint your canvas or to build your life. So I would, yes, go ahead.
So, I mean, it goes as far as the concept of beauty. What is beautiful and what is not, right? Where are you taking your parameters from? Is it from who you are as a person, as a culture, or is it from a third-party perspective? So again, if you go back to what I said about, there was a time in our history in which we were moved, basically taken off tangent, right? Of course. And then new systems were introduced. And yeah, we are using them, right? We're not going to go back and try to start from where that referendum happened, right? But how do we move from here, right? Who are you? Are you consciously, I mean, if you were not born a Christian, would you be a Christian? Right? Okay, who says that your hair has to be long and straight? Why can't kinky hair be beautiful? I always tell some of my friends that, imagine all of us, in all the black people in Nigeria all have dreads, both male and female. Wouldn't that be like some fancy, nice land, Eden kind of a thing? Very exotic people, why do we have to roll our hair? Why do we have to bleach our skin? All of this is coming because we are defining and drawing our standards from a place that is not authentically ours. And what is authentically you? You don't need to go far. Just look at you, right? And the funny thing is, no matter how you try to change it, it comes through, right? You see what we've done with Christianity. We've taken Christianity and we've added traditional religion to it. That happened organically. Nobody planned it, right? The way Pentecostal churches dance and chant and sing, that is African, right? So the people always find a way to go back somehow to their roots. And there are no hard and fast rules to these things. It's just about being original to yourself. And why do you need to be original to yourself? I'll tell you point blank, if you're not original to yourself, you are not going to develop. I stand to be corrected. I believe that Africa is not moving forward because we're not operating from a place that is true to us. And I always say it, show me a country in this world that is operating from a place that is true to them and they chose to be in, that is not successful. And show me a country that is operating from a place that is imposed on them that is successful.
Right. So you're touching on very sensitive topics, very sensitive topics, areas.
Nigeria is about to happen. So
yes,
my light is about to go up, but it's fine. We'll just go ahead.
Okay.
It's Nigeria, right? Yeah.
Sorry, development challenges. But can you hear us?
Yes, I can clearly.
Okay, so we'll just continue till whatever your light comes back on. We're talking about a place of authenticity, and yes, I quite agree with you that if you're not authentic to yourself, it affects your life as a whole, and that's why, to use your word, a lot of African countries are lost. If you are just joining us, I am speaking with Chuma Anagbado. He's an artist and designer, and we are talking about African art and the role it has in creating a cultural renewal, a cultural rebirth in our continent. And we've touched on a lot of different things from here. I want to take us to an aspect which is spiritual. Some of your work focuses heavily on masquerades and mass. And some people in Africa see that negatively or view it negatively, maybe because of the Western Christianity or a couple of other reasons. But tell us, do you see the mask and masquerade as art, or is there much more to it?
It's not art to me, actually. It's life, right? So beyond life, it's actually our complete art form, right? And this is what a lot of us don't know. The masquerade is a combination of several art forms, right? So the Western people came here and they said, oh, these people are crude. They don't have the fine arts. They don't have theater. They don't have poetry, right? They are crude. What they did not see was that we had an art form that was an ensemble, a combination of all of this, right? So in masquerading, you had fashion, which was the costume going on. You had the chants, which was poetry, right, going on. You have the dance, which is music and dance going on. You have the audience watching the masquerading performance, which is theater, right? Because theater is about performance and the audience, right? I don't know any other art form that combines all of this in one art form. So I think it's something that is worth celebrating. It's also a socio-political structure within our societies that had very functional roles, right? It's a portal between the living and the dead, right? We believed that, not that we believed, the masquerades actually are a representation of those that have passed on, right? And it was our way of communicating with them. It was how we showed that we believed in the afterlife, right? Because we then have costumed the ones that have gone before us, and we bring them in to participate in our festivity, in our burials, in our times of joy, birth, right? And so it's it symbolizes a lot, and it sits at that portal where the living and the dead, right, communicates. It's also for entertainment. It's just pure art. So, I mean, it's something that's so complex that nobody should have thrown it away. And I think we are beginning to realize that. I mean, we've seen images recently where there was masquerade in the church. We've seen priests that do masquerade chanting. We have rap artists like Fino, who is in the olden days would have been a a masquerade chanter, because what he's doing is rap. I mean, I can tell you for free that what we have as rap music today started with the African chants, which was basically a masquerading thing, right? Someone showed me something that Jay-Z had in his studio, and Jay-Z actually created it. He just got an artist to create it, and this artist had never been to Africa. He had not come here. And do you know what the guy created?
What?
That masquerade you call Abo One More. Exactly the same thing.
Wow.
He has never been here. He has never seen it. He just created something that came to his head, and that thing was actually existing somewhere.
It's the
so when he was shown what
the ancestors work in him.
I don't know, possibly. Yeah, but because we've demonized our culture, right, where we're from and all of that, so we tend to throw away a lot. I don't subscribe to the fact that, or the belief that all my ancestors were evil. Come on. That's not possible, right? And yeah, it's just a lot, right? It comes from a point of belief, and then practice, where you draw your models from. And I wouldn't blame people because you don't have models to look up to or draw from, right? Everything has been wiped out. I mean, don't you find it troubling that if you want to learn about your culture, you have to go to a museum or a university,
right,
in the US or UK?
Yes.
That's, yeah. For you to learn, for you to get the most authentic information about most cultures in Africa, you have to go to Yale University or you go to School of Oriental African Studies. Why? Why are they not in Unilag? Why are they not in Uniden? Why are they not here? Right? So why are we trying to be more Western than the West?
So I think that speaks directly to the dislocation that we are suffering. You used the word wiping out, a wiping out of your memory, of your history, that you have nothing in front of you that is positive to look up to. But that's why we're having this conversation, because you are an inspiration. You have created and you keep creating things that it will inspire people today and in the future, and they can look up to it. And you know, you talked also about the masquerade being complete. And one of the reasons probably why it was ignored was a lack of understanding. Many countries in Africa have masquerades and masks. So whoever came as a colonial power maybe did not understand the complexity and the depth of what the people have created. So it was thrown out. And then people saw it in negative light also because of Western Christianity. So the point now here is, how do we begin to sort of revive all of this? You're already on that journey. How do other people join in this journey?
So I think there's a renaissance going on already. Yeah, people, some way, somehow, we find their way back to their roots, whether you like it or not, right? It will get to a point where it becomes a bandwagon effect. I'll give you an example. In the early 90s, if you go to a club in Nigeria, you would only hear American music from the USA, right? But we got to a point where we started doing our own music. And now when you go to a club, you would not hear an American music. You would just, it's all Nigeria. In fact, we are now exporting, right? So the same thing is happening. It's happening in art. It's happening in music. It's happening in architecture. right? People are beginning to ask questions, and the more you interact with the foreign cultures in the foreign lands, it kind of jolts you into reality, and you'll be like, okay, so what is going on here, right? Why am I bearing the name John, for crying out loud, right? I made a conscious effort not to give my children any English name. We can argue with it, but why would I name them in English when the English person is not naming their children in Igbo? There has to be a balance. I mean, you're already giving me a language that I cannot throw away, right? English, right? Which is fine because I see the benefits in it. Because I can, even amongst us in Africa here, we have different cultures, right? So English kind of helps us communicate better and preach, which is fine. But why do I have to do that? If you look at some of the statistics, for instance, I don't know how many Italians are on this planet, but I think there are more Igbos than Italians on Earth.
Probably.
So why do we have an Italian nation and we don't have an Igbo nation? Why do you refer to a whole country like the Yoruba nation as a tribe, right? So once you begin to ask questions, right, and try to seek relevance, you begin to find answers. But why are we doing this? We are doing this because we want to develop. We want to live better. We want to create systems from our own reality that would work for us, right? We are tired of borrowing structures that are not working, right? It's sad that the laws we have in Nigeria are still the laws from the UK in the 60s.
Right.
Why are we not? Okay, even if we are copying, we are not even copying up to date, right? We copied up to a point in history. I mean, imagine somebody asking me for radio license. Why? That's a law that came up before the advent of computers and all of that, you know. But we've not changed that, and we've not made a conscious effort to change it. So we don't know who we are. We're just moving. We're just doing stuff. I said how the trade sector, for instance, right, thrived in Igbo land because there was a system called apprenticeship, right? Why are we not doing that today? But you find that somebody who is conscious has then taken it and created a new system. So I'll give you an instance. If you've heard of slots, right? Good. So there are slot shops all over the country. What has the guy done? The guy has just simply gone back in time to pick up the apprenticeship system and polished it up. So what does he do? He has secured his franchise and his rights.
So
all the boys that
tell our viewers what the slot is, so everybody will understand.
Oh, slots is I think is the largest phone shop, GSM phone shop in Nigeria. Everybody knows slot, right? And everybody that trains or works with him, by the time you are exiting, he gives you his brand, which is slot. But because he's also locked down the supply, you have to come to him to get your product, right? So he gives you his brand and he gives you products, and then you open a new slot shop. He has created a fresh way of franchising, right? So you're not buying the slot name from him to use. You are just, because you trained under him, you can open your own slot shop, and of course he gets to make money. So the more he trains people under that as apprentice under him, the more shops he's opening. So he's just been able to take that and tie it to brand building, and that's it, right? But you have other people that have been doing trading, buying and selling in those markets for years and years, and they didn't go anywhere because they didn't build a brand. So this is where you begin to see fusions, right? And this is the very reason why we have to go back, because once you go back to what is authentic to you, right, and your culture needs to follow you. So we have this belief that our culture is tied to a geography. We want to get married, we have to travel to the village to have traditional marriage. Why? Why are we even calling it traditional marriage and not marriage? Because that is the marriage we know. I don't know why will I call it traditional, right? Why will I say my art is Igbo art? I'm an artist. Anyway, I'm an artist, right? Whether I'm a man or a woman or where I'm from, I'm an artist, and that's what it should be. So if you start thinking of that, right, you're not thinking from Cinderella. You're thinking, Willy Willy. I don't know. Is it Willy Willy now? I'm trying to get. I mean, that we lack content, right? So there's just a lot that can be created. We all got excited when we saw Wakanda, Black Panther.
Right.
But Black Panther is a scratch of the surface, and I would say a poor attempt at trying to showcase African culture. I think it just pretty much took everything from different parts of Africa and just mumbo-jumboed it into one nice fiction. And
I mean, at the end of the day, what you're essentially saying is that we have to define what development means, not development defined by another person. And then
classical example.
Yes.
Classical example, look at what the Japanese are doing, right? The Japanese have given us a template of how to merge your culture and new cultures that are coming, because people would always move, mix and relate. There's nothing wrong with that. It's where you're operating from. So the Japanese have a culture that they've brought in to, that they've kept, I mean, operating from up till date, right? They keep to time. They've infused it in their architecture. They've infused it in their greeting, the process, right? I mean, if I come into your house, right? What makes, if you come into an Indian man's house or Indian person's house, you will know that this person is Indian without seeing the person, right? Because you're going to start seeing cultural elements, space use, functional use of space that is different, right? That is coming from a place of who they are and how they use space, right? But we've gone so far that we live in houses where you have parlor, kitchen, dining, and rooms. That wasn't how we built our houses from a point of function, right? Traditionally from Igbo land, I would say, because that's where I'm from, you had what you called the Obi, which was where you welcomed guests. Then you had the living area for the family that was private, right? And then you had a courtyard that was like a circulation. So you would begin to see that even the architecture was coming from a place of function.
Right.
But we've lost all that. So we build houses now, and yeah, here we are, and the houses have no meaning.
It's interesting you say that, because last month we had a talk on African architecture and we had a fantastic speaker, and she said the same thing: functionality. How do you live your life? What's your culture, and how do you build a house that suits that everyday life, you know, that is simply functional? You build a mansion, you're dying of heat, you cannot live in it without AC, because you're building an architecture that is foreign to your environment and to your climate.
Exactly.
These are all things. I mean, this could be art as well. You know, of course, architecture is also part of art. So
I mean, it goes as far as medicine. So I had some back pain recently, and I asked, because I have friends that are very, very thinking from a place of their culture. And I asked him, please, what's the medicine that I can use? Because he kind of learned a lot from his grandmother, who was very knowledgeable in herbs and all of that. And he told me, just take ginger, concentrated amounts of ginger. That's a painkiller, right? Who says we cannot take that and that concentrated ginger and make it into a tablet that you can easily swallow, right? That's what the Chinese are doing. That's what the Indians are doing. Are you aware that people export lizards from Nigeria in containers?
Wow.
Right? They take it out and then use them to make medicine and ship it back to us. So again, it's just like the toothbrush and chewing stick. Now they're selling chewing stick in the UK, right? Because they've packaged it.
Seriously?
But this one, yes, and it's more expensive than your toothbrush or toothpaste or whatever you are using. And they are now telling us that it's more effective. But again, this is a culture that we rejected, right? So we need to make that conscious effort. And the only reason why we need to make that effort is because we have to develop
Right.
as a
So
people.
at the end of the day, your culture has the answers that you are looking for outside. It means that
Yeah.
our ancestors have already answered so many questions about life, but all of them were thrown away. So you need to go search for them and bring them back. And that leads us to discuss the universities and how art is taught. You said you were taught a Western type of art curriculum. So what do we do? It's not only in art, in other subjects. And that is part of the reason why people graduate from university. They don't have jobs to do. There's nothing for them to do. They're waiting to be employed because most of those things are not relevant. Most of the things you learned are not relevant to your environment. So what do we do about updating curriculums? Starting, for instance, in the art schools. Have you tried to do something about that? Are there discussions and conversations around that?
A lot has been done in that regard. So I'll start with art. So the guys that created the natural synthesis, what they actually did was a rebellion against the colonial curriculum, right? And you do have some art schools in Nigeria that have gone that route, right? UNN, University of Nigeria, for instance, has gone ahead to create its own kind of curriculum that's fused a lot of indigenous elements, thanks to Chokeke, who pretty much set up that department, and a few others, right? But generally, it needs to be everywhere, and it needs to then translate to music, right? It needs to translate to architecture, vernacular architecture, and all of that. I'm sure the last speaker on your platform touched on that. It needs to go to medicine, right? There has to be a bridge between town and gown, right? So people, the practitioners in every sphere of life needs to be connected to the university so that we have that push and pull and research going on. So it's happening in bits and pieces, but it needs to be holistic, right? I was speaking with one of my conversations with Dimas, Dimas Woko, and he said something, and that thing has never left me to date. He says, why are Lagosians building their houses on land? Your ancestors already built on stilts, which was a solution to living with water. Why are you building on land? Why are you not suspending these houses on stilts so that the earth would run its course and live its way? So technically what he's saying is that we should, in some parts of Lagos that are swampy, we should build our houses and roads and bridges all suspended from the ground. And I agree. I mean, that would be a very nice city. Imagine that the whole of Lekki was suspended, like houses, roads, and then you could just look down and see. Yeah, just look down and see the water and the animals and stuff, existing side by side. So it's really about what I call design thinking, right? So observing your immediate environment and try to create solution based on your realities and your capacity.
Originality.
Right. Yeah, so it's not exactly saying, oh, go back to 19 or 17 or 12th century to go and start what they're doing. No, nobody's saying that. I mean, this is us. This is our reality. We have realities now. We've moved from all those our independent ethnic kingdoms, and we now find ourselves in this unfortunate contraption called Nigeria. But there's a culture. There's a Niger. So can we think from Niger and create solutions for Niger based on Niger realities?
Right.
Right. That's what we need to do.
So, I mean, apart from Nigeria, like I said earlier, a lot of African countries have similarities underpinning their cultures. So have you worked with other African artists? Do you intend to work with them? Do you find meeting points with them, both artists and designers?
Oh, I do. I do a lot, but I mean, at least this is not place to advertise. There's a lot going on across Africa, and I'm involved in a couple of things across different spheres of interest. So from the new blockchain technology and recording our culture to building sustainable houses and architecture somewhere in East Africa, something I'm advising and working on as well. We've been able to create a whole skyscraper that is energy efficient and built with local materials, right? And I think it's something that when it comes out is going to be phenomenal, right? So, yeah, there's a lot going on, and I wouldn't want to say all of it now, but essentially wherever I find myself in Africa, and I do travel a lot, I tend to get into a project or be part of something that is supports and fuels this ideology, right? The things I'm doing with Lizard, for instance, is purely reimagining the Igbo Uli motif on a global scale, right? So from blockchain NFTs to product design to retailing and just generally building an experience, right? Creating a space where you can come and experience our food, right? You can hear our music, our dance, right? And I'm not selling it to you as, oh, this is Africa. No, this is me, right? I am Africa, right? It is not something that is third party that I want to go and be African or I'm doing something that is African. There's no such thing. You that is existent and living now is Africa, right? I mean, we just need to do this. Okay, look at what happened now. We just lost power, right? That's our reality. But what did I do? I got another phone, put on the torchlight and pointed it to my face and our meeting goes on. I've innovated based on my reality. But I could have said, oh, I'll start crying or I'll start going to get fuel or, So it's about taking what you have and making the best of it.
Right.
And this is why countries close their borders, right? So at some point, China closed their borders and allowed the people to innovate and develop and grow on their own. By the time you do that, you would have solutions that work, that you can then actually export to other cultures, right? Yeah, something like that.
If that happens all across Africa, I think there will be an explosion. And I often tell people that it's safe to say that Africa largely doesn't need the world to an extent. I think the world needs Africa more. But like we said,
the world has always fed off from Africa till today.
Yes. So the cultural dislocation has been a problem, and once people are able to realize that your identity, where you stand, is where you should spring up from, then like you mentioned, the innovations start. So let's look at for instance what is happening today. Some Africans, when you travel abroad, you go to European museums, you pay money and you see African art that was stolen or forcefully taken centuries ago. Some of those arts are being returned, but when you get back home, you look at them with disdain and you call them objects of witchcraft and artifacts of witchcraft. So my question to you, what's your take on the returning of these artifacts and objects? Do you think this will lead to a shift mentally and culturally? Will there be any impact at all?
There may be some impact, but I think there's just a lot of politics going on around reparation of stolen works from Africa. I'm not excited. Why am I not excited? Because those things they are continually being created here. So why are we so much? Why are we building so much hype and making so much ado about the ones in Europe that were stolen? Who gives the art meaning? Who creates the art? I mean, if you go to Benin today, Igun Street, all those bronze sculptures are still being made, and we will walk past them, right? We don't even value them. So why are we placing so much value on the one that was stolen and put in the UK? It is because we think from a place that is not original. So because it is somewhere in in Europe, and someone says it has value, therefore it has value. Why do the ones we have here, why are they not valuable? Who gives the art value? What if we wake up and say, you know what, all those works that people have in Britain, they are all useless because we have revoked all the essence and spirituality that we put in it. So you can have it, they're just piece of metal. This one here is the original, and this is where the value is. What will happen? Right? How would happen if the Oba of Benin says, you know what, all those works that you are stolen, that's fine, you guys stole it. Keep them, you can have it. We are making better ones here, really, but we are doing better ones. So it is because of our value system. We place authenticity when someone else has said it is authentic. Why is it not authentic to you? I bet you the day if we have one European country celebrating masquerading, for instance, and you have white people celebrating that masquerading, it will become a thing. We'll start liking it, and all of a sudden, all of us will become masquerades. So we need to have a mind shift from where we are thinking and begin to see things from a different light. And I think it starts with religion.
Right.
Right.
So what do we do about this religion? Because a lot of us are wedded to Western Christianity or Arabic Islam. And it causes a lot of conflict in our country. So what to do about this? And people
if you ask me
about it.
If you ask me, we need to create our own religion. Or we need to fuse something out of what we have currently.
There are African spiritualities and religions already. They exist.
No, they are not exist. So this is the thing. Something has been destroyed and something has been created and put out and say, oh, this.
Oh, I think we lost Chuma. Anyway, to our viewers, if you have any questions, you can drop your questions, join the conversation. I have been speaking with Chuma Anagbado, an artist and designer from Nigeria. We have been talking about African art and its role in cultural renewal. We've touched on so many things. I hope he's able to come back on. He's just been disconnected. I think he has some technical challenges. Let's wait a few minutes and see if he can join us again. But I mean, we've gone from art in general to spirituality. We talked about the masquerade, the African masquerade, which you see all over different African cultures. We talked about the underlying philosophy of Africa, the Ubuntu, the togetherness, the oneness, the philosophy of I am because you are. We work together and not individuality. We touched on, how the curriculums are Western in our universities. He talked about his own studies of art at the university. It was a philosophy that was very foreign to Africa, and of course that shaped his perspectives until he began to look and to see what culturally is obtainable or available in Africa. A lot of them, of course, have been wiped out, but he's been able to retrieve some and keep working on African art. And then he told us about the name of one of his organizations called Aziza in his language, Igbo language. It means broom. And we know in Africa, our brooms are like a bunch. You have single brooms, but you put it together and bond it, then you're able to sweep with it. So that bunch signifies community and unity and oneness. Chuma, can you hear me? Have you joined us? Oh, great.
I was hearing you all along, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know where you were saying something before before electricity kicked you off. Do you want to finish your thoughts?
No, just go ahead. I'll just pick up from.
Hello, Chuma. Yes. I mean, okay, so if you're just
Yeah, I'll
joining
just
us,
pick
I
up
see
from
some
there.
people joining us. I mean, it's been fantastic, phenomenal. You should definitely follow Chuma Anagbado at on Instagram at Chuma Anagbado. Then follow the African Press Club on Instagram, on Facebook. We're so excited about this conversation. We'll be bringing you more. I think we should have a part 2 that will be more structured to go in depth. And so, Chuma, I would like to ask, what you're doing, like I said in the beginning, is revolutionary. You might not see it as that, but it is, because some people don't want to hear this. So the question is, what is the wildest, or what are one or two of the wildest experiences you have had in trying to promote African art, genuine African art?
I'm trying to see if anyone comes to mind. None really, but the thing is, there's that constant pressure to fit into a box so that you can be heard or sell. Right? It's kind of a lonely place to operate from, and my one of my ogas is just on that. I have to welcome. So one of the persons that taught me, El Drag, one of Nigeria's best painters, is here. Uncle D, hello. Sorry, I had to do that, so that he doesn't give
No
me,
problem at all. Welcome, Uncle
you know,
Drag.
you know.
We're excited you're here.
Okay, so yeah, it's a lonely place to be in, right? In terms of the crowd is not there. You need to shout a lot more. You need to bear a lot more of the pain. You need to, you may go hungry. Um, but eventually, if you stick around, it does pay, right? And then you become a pioneer and all of that. So I think the greatest challenge for me in all my work is being misunderstood. Of course, you already have a population that does not want to naturally associate with what you're doing the direction you are going. So you need to find ways and innovate ways to, like, put out your ideology and your messaging and your work out there for people to accept it. And yeah, I do accept that. Like I said, you don't have to go back and start doing things the way it was done before the white man came. I'm saying, just look at your environment. How do you create stuff that would be relevant here, right? I mean, you see people wearing. My brother is a lawyer, and I always make jokes on him. Why are you putting on this white wig? Like, what's the significance of this wig? I know it's gone on to become. I know it's gone on to become like a professional thing, an identity, and yeah. But I mean, if we were to interrogate that, right? It came from a place where people needed to cover their heads, and cold. It's a fashionable way of covering your head. Why are we covering our head in this temperature that is almost killing us? Why are we wearing jackets and suits and work? I mean, if you wear jackets
Look, Chuma,
and get into an AC, that's fine.
don't even get started on that. I've always looked at lawyers with that funny cap, white cap. It's a woven hair, whatever it is. I've always
Exactly.
looked at it and I asked myself, what is the relevance of this thing? It looks stupid, actually. Sorry, lawyers. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. But I mean, it looks so alien. Why do you have to wear that thing? And then it goes back to the colonization. There are certain
Don't let
things
them
that
come for
need to be
you.
thrown out completely. And you mentioned the suit.
Exactly.
Wow, when I was in university and in the hot afternoon, Lagos afternoon, you see people wearing suit, they're sweating, the white shirt and the collar, is
I mean,
drenched.
why?
And you're like, why are you wearing this suit? It's 70 degrees.
Exactly.
So a lot of things have to be retaught. You have to
So
rethink
it's
the
about
relevance.
constantly, yeah, it's about constantly interrogating everything we do and asking, why am I doing this? I mean, if you find a plausible reason, then go ahead, right? The world is a small place, is a small global village, and there are things that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are things that work that we can ride on and just move on fast, right? But throwing away and not looking at things from our point of reality is where the problem lies, right? You just end up spending more. And I mean, it has a direct impact and effect on our economy. Like, you have to import everything, right? You have to import everything, even to the food, even to the food you eat. Come on, because because you've changed your taste, right? You are now, your taste is now pizza, it's now macaroni, it's not noodles. Because of that, you have to import them.
And that's
right? You
why
have to
you're
pay more for
dependent. You're heavily dependent, and you're told that you're not developing.
Exactly.
Because the clothes you even wear, you have to import them. You don't make them. And that brings me, you talked about reality. You talked about reality, cultural elements. You talked about when you step into your house, what are the cultural elements in your house? So help us, for instance, we are Africans, maybe we would like to, be culturally conscious. In your house, what are the cultural elements we see, and what can you suggest to us?
Well, if you come into my house, the first thing you're most likely going to see some things that will scare you. So I just need to put that out. Yeah, but I have artworks, I have figurines, I have sculptures, I have my Ikenga, for instance, which has a spiritual significance, a portal, a pathway in which I communicate with God. I mean, those things you would normally not find it in anybody's house unless you have some relationship with those things. And I think those are the things that situate me. I mean, if you're able to then walk into my kitchen and look at the food menu, you begin to realize that you are in a house that is coming from a culture, because I make conscious efforts to bring in the foods I ate growing up, right? I've tried to break away from the rice, swallow, macaroni and indomie tripartite feeding. Everything we eat is basically around rice and chicken. I don't know how that happens. I know growing up that I think we still have between close to 20 to 25 different delicacies that we had. But you come to the city, all we do is eat rice, bread, and what was the other one again? Yeah, maybe eba. Yes, that kind of a thing. So we have that whole palette option that we can turn into a product. This is part of the things that informed a restaurant I invested in that was solely focused on cooking grilled food, which was a way we cooked, which they say is healthy. I mean, I don't know. I'll leave that for the medical people. I just know that this is how we cooked. And you find innovations like us trying to then create things like agege sandwich, for instance, right? Agege burger or agege bread, kind of.
I am so coming to your restaurant. I am so coming to your restaurant. I mean, the next time I hit Nigeria, I am there.
Yeah, a couple of years before now, we didn't smoke shisha or eat shawarma, right? But someone exported their food to us, and now we are eating it. Now, begin to imagine the entire value chain that food goes through to become something we can buy and eat, right? That is an entire value chain, money, jobs, income that is going to that person that has exported their culture. I mean, I don't know where you live, but if you look at what happens in some of the London high streets, where you have lots of Nigerians, there's a lot of export of food going on. That is a whole value chain going already. So imagine we are able to then create brands that would sell those foods, right? You have your abacha or amala joint or amala brand, right? That is at the same level with your McDonald's, and you're selling it all over the world. That is you exporting your culture. That is you selling who you are. That is you selling your taste buds to someone else, and then they buy it. And because they have to always come back to us to get the ingredients to enjoy this culture that we've then given them, we're going to be making money. But as long as we are not doing that, we are not going to develop.
Chuma, look, this is so wonderful. Unfortunately, we'll have to wrap up soon. We have to do a session 2. But before we go, look, what you've just said, apart from food, it creates an industry. The clothes you
Absolutely.
wear, the clothes you wear, all these artifacts you talk about, whether it's the ikenga, the objects, all of this, if you use those things, there is a demand, then there will be an industry. Producers will produce those things for you to
Exactly.
use. Then you do not have to waste foreign currency on importing them. I mean, and then you employ people. It's a cycle, like you said, value chain. So we need to think about these things deeply. I mean, this has been awesome. This has been awesome. If you have any questions, we're going to go in a few minutes. Drop your questions. But Chuma, do you have any other thing to add before we call it a day?
Well, I'll just say follow this space. There's a lot coming. I happen to be at the point in my life where I think all of my life's journeys have then all converged, and I think the next set of things that I'm going to be doing are going to be quite different. I don't want to use the word phenomenal, but I think it's going to be different because it's also coming from a place of a holistic understanding and experience of what exactly to do. So I don't even have any shred of doubt as to what next step to do or take. What I lack now is time. I wish I can have like 26 hours in a day so that I'll be able to do all of it. And I'm hoping that it would be my own contribution, my own tiny drop in this ocean of trying to, you know, cause this mindset shift, right? It's pretty much like social engineering, right? Get people to start thinking from this place so that it would have an effect on our entire ecosystem as human beings and our existence, right? So we begin to eat who we are, we begin to dress. We are actually restructuring the restaurant, so I'll give a new address. I saw you this question, so I just wanted to answer that. All of that is what I think this entire renaissance that is going on. I mean, I'm so happy that the music industry has taken a lead. I mean, artists have always been there. You have lots of artists that have been doing this by like a lone voice. But again, with the blockchain technology, the artists now stand the chance to actually be seen and heard, which is why I happen to also be at the forefront of using and embracing and adopting the blockchain technology in creating art. So for me, it's not about the technology. The art is the art. The artist is the artist. The platform is irrelevant and immaterial. It is the art that you are creating. Tomorrow we can decide to start using stones to write on in the air, or I mean, I've seen some iterations of the next level of digital art, and it's a bit crazy. Like people are painting virtually. You're picking up a brush and you're painting something that is in space, right? And the possibilities are just so much. And these are all the things. Communities are then being built around art. Art itself has then become a currency.
Right.
That is awesome. Like that is awesome. Like value is being traded on art.
Creation.
Communities are being built around art. Exactly. So, and this is what technology is making possible for us. So why don't we use it, right? So my own journey and my own work is just to contribute to this very vast ocean of possibilities and renaissance. And because it's not just about talking, it's about doing, right? You just have to do. I think we go to school a lot. A lot of us go to school a lot, bagging all those degrees and stuff. All those degrees are, sorry, they're irrelevant actually.
Yeah, I mean,
like them would say, once you go past university, I think you've gotten the basic education you need to, unless you want to be an academic, then you can step. But if aside that, every other thing you do, you can get from practice. Like people were building houses before architecture became a study. Put it that way, right? So,
I mean,
yeah, that's
you've said
the
a
message.
lot. You've said a lot, and thank you so much. There are quite a number of takeaways from this conversation today. I believe that everyone that has joined us today is interested in African art, is interested in cultural revival, renewal, renaissance, whichever word you choose. After this gathering, what do we begin to do? Some takeaways. Look for cultural elements to include in your house, in your environment. Remember, if you're thinking of building your home, many Africans always look for, I want to build my own house. Ask yourself, first of all, is the architecture African or is it foreign? The food you eat, the clothes you wear, you know, all those kind of things, little bits here and there, you know, they sort of sum up to create an ecosystem that drives that development that we are looking for. Continue to ask questions, go back and ask questions from the past. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This was brought to you by the African Press Club. Please follow our social media handles. We're on Facebook at African Press Club, of course, on Instagram at African Press Club. If you would like to send us messages, you can also send us an email, info@africanpressclub.com. And then our website is www.africanpressclub.com. You can reach out to Chuma on his social media handle, Instagram at Chuma Anagbado. And then, of course, he has his website, www.chumaanagbado.com. I am so excited. Once that restaurant is done, I'm coming there to eat. And then you would have to get me my own ikenga. I need one. Yes. You have
we'll have to find something for you.
Huh?
Yeah, we have to find something and carve for you that you can use.
Please. Right. I would love that. I would love that. You know, I'm on fire this evening. So I'm a disciple now. Okay. I hope every other person is
glad
a disciple.
you.
Thank you so much, Chuma, and we look forward to having another outing with you. Thank you, everyone, for spending your evening with us. And if you follow us, we always have events. You would get to know about our activities so that you can join us next time. Have a lovely evening. Have a wonderful weekend. My name is Chiogo Constance Ikoku. I am editorial lead at the African Press Club. Thank you. Have a good evening and see you soon. Bye. Bye-bye.